Mistakes over the last few months, haven't we? But when this one gets things wrong, you could be out of a job.
You can't escape a criminal conviction. It stays on your record forever. And if an employer wants to find out if you have one, they apply to the Criminal Records Bureau, the CRB.
Last year, the Criminal Records Bureau checked out 3 million people. Not because they'd done anything wrong, but they'd applied for a job where it's vital you've nothing to hide. In most cases, it's a formality. Or it should be. But here's another government department where things don't always go as smoothly as they should. And the consequences can be devastating.
Piano teacher Pete Sheath got a coveted job as a music teacher at a school in Watford last year. Because he'd be working with children, he needed to get his criminal record checked before he could start.
Financially, the job was huge. It was the kind of job that you work up to after several years of teaching the piano.
The CRB aims to process checks in 4 weeks, but Pete still wasn't back 6 weeks later. Despite having applied the minute he got the job, Pete wasn't able to start teaching and the term began without him. He lost more than half the students he was due to tutor.
We've lost over £4,000 throughout the year, and that's a huge amount of money for anybody to lose, but for a newly married couple who are trying to save up for a deposit for a house, it's massive amounts of money.
Pete's CRB cheque finally arrived clean, a week later, but too late for Pete. He's complained, but the CRB have blamed the police.
It's difficult to put into words, really. There was so much expectation that we'd put on that job, and to lose that much was devastating.
It's not unusual for the Criminal Records Bureau to blame delays like this on the local police. And maybe they're right. We all know they're busy. But the time it takes some local forces to do these checks, well, that really is criminal.
According to the latest figures, 2 forces in particular, Humberside and Suffolk, only processed a shocking 1% of checks in time. Mervyn Barrett of NACRO, who advised the public on criminal record checks, says it's taking too long.
Delays in the processing of criminal records are a problem, and they are a growing problem. Most checks are still being done within 4 weeks, but large numbers of checks are taking several months to do, and in odd cases more than a year, and that problem is likely to increase further in the future.
A long wait to get your records is one thing, but in some cases, getting that information back is when your problems really start. Especially if the Criminal Records Bureau has it all wrong and you're a victim of mistaken identity.
Rachel Bunker was offered a job as a teaching assistant in December last year. When her CRB check came back, she was horrified to read that she apparently had 3 convictions for theft and shoplifting.
I knew that I hadn't had any convictions before, so I phoned the CRB people in Liverpool and questioned this, and basically they said, well, it sounds very like you, very similar, same date of birth, it must be you, that we don't make these errors. And I said, but it's not me, it's really not me.
The crimes were carried out 25 years ago by a woman with a similar name. However, back then Rachel was using a different name altogether, her maiden name. Despite sending in her birth and marriage certificates, the CRB still hasn't sorted it out. Because the school knew her, they let her keep her job, but she's still struggling to formally clear her name.
I felt really cross that someone can make a mistake like this when their job is to be very, very thorough. It's almost like my identity's been stolen in a way, because their records now have my name with these convictions on. So the convictions are still there, and apparently it's still me.
You'd hope that's as bad as it gets, but no. Imagine your criminal record has 30 convictions that are nothing to do with you, and they've been there for years.
That's what happened to stuntman John Street, seen here in action. When he had a criminal record check in 2005, he got the shock of his life. It was 10 pages long, detailing 30 offences, none of them his.
Tell us about these convictions. Be specific.
Everything ranging from theft, burglary, vehicle theft, heroin possession,
Nice.
Fighting with the police, a fray, it goes on.
What on earth was going through your mind?
Initially, shock and disbelief, and it followed a sickness, a feeling of sickness in the pit of my stomach.
Real physical sickness?
Yeah, I felt physically sick.
Do you think at any stage this actually stopped you getting jobs?
From 1986 to 2005, I applied for various jobs, including the fire brigade for 4 years on the trot, and never actually got a look in. Whether it's anything to do with that, I could never say.
It took John 3 months to get the convictions wiped off. The CRB agreed to give John £900 for the time and hassle taken to rectify it, but for him it's little consolation.
It's still disbelief to this day, really, that an error like that can be made. I was very angry at that time, and I still am to this day, to be honest, because I don't feel that justice has been done.
Checks like these are crucial, and we're all safer because of them, but only when the records are right. No one deserves to be branded a criminal when they've done absolutely nothing wrong. Vince Gaskell is here, Chief Executive of the CRB. It's disturbing, isn't it?
Let me say that having watched those 3 clips, I do understand how stressful and distressing it must have been for those 3 people. And I really do apologise to them for, what they've had to experience. But I'd like to put that in context, if I can, particularly for the second 2 people, Rachel and Pete, that I think you interviewed. Our service is exceptionally accurate. 99.9% of the checks that we issue are accurate. And so these situations are exceptionally rare.
I know you've got to err on the side of caution. We absolutely understand that. You do good work, and it's proper that we emphasise that. But Rachel Bunker, wrong first name, wrong middle name, wrong surname. Vince, that's erring on the side of incompetence, isn't it?
I don't accept that. I don't want to talk about the individual case, if you don't mind. But what I can say is that there are instances in which there is an exceptionally close match between the details that the individual provides to us.
Why does it take so long? Why did it take so long with Pete Sheath, for example? Why are NACRO saying that delays are increasing? And he lost a lot of money, and really, is an apology enough?
But let me deal with the Rachel question that you asked me. That the details can be exceptionally close, and when you have that situation, the consequences of getting that wrong can be catastrophic in terms of public protection, and that is why my staff, carefully trained, do the job exceptionally well.
I appreciate
and
that.
err on the side of caution.
But a final point, it was catastrophic for John Street, wasn't it?
In the case of John Street, that's a really interesting case. I well understand the distress for him, but it would have been the first time he would have come across a situation in which somebody else has used his information when in trouble with the police.
Thank you for coming in. We have to leave it there.
Thank you.
If you've got a story